The silent breaking point. For many years, the galaxy had known humans as the voice of calm. They were the ones who helped rebuild after wars. They were the ones who carried medicine and food to starving planets. When alien worlds fought, it was often humans who stepped in to stop the bloodshed. Their kindness was seen everywhere, and because of that, many alien races began to believe that humans were soft. Kindness was mistaken for weakness. At first, it was small things. A merchant cheated human traders and faced no punishment. A minor empire broke a treaty and the humans forgave them. A warlord insulted Earth at a council meeting, and the humans did not respond with anger. Over time, this patience became the foundation of the galaxy. Many races thought they could do anything to humans and still be forgiven, but patience is not endless. On a quiet night, far from Earth, something happened that would break the balance forever. A human colony filled with families, farmers, and children was attacked. The attackers were not desperate. They were not starving. They did it only because they believed humans would not fight back. Ships descended from the sky like shadows, and in a single day the colony was burned to ash. The news spread quickly. Most of the galaxy expected humans to grieve quietly, to send words of peace, maybe to rebuild once again. That was what humans always did. That was what the galaxy had come to expect. But this time, no words came. The leaders of Earth gathered in silence. The surviving colonists, broken and scarred, were brought home. There were no speeches broadcast across the stars. There were no promises of forgiveness. Instead, something far more dangerous began to move. Human fleets long kept in reserve were awakened. Shipyards that had slept for years came alive with fire and noise. Old war machines hidden away after ancient conflicts were pulled from the ground and reforged. Scientists worked without rest. Engineers built without pause, and soldiers drilled in silence. There was no shouting, no celebration, no rage. Only a cold and heavy silence. Other species watched carefully. Some laughed at first. They believed it was only a show, a way to frighten others into sympathy. They told themselves that humans would not actually fight. But deep down, fear began to stir. For the first time, the galaxy saw humans move not for mercy but for war. On the streets of alien cities, whispers began to spread. Traders spoke in hushed tones of human warships gathering at the edge of systems. Smugglers carried tales of human fleets forming in black space where no one dared to follow. Diplomats who once smiled at humans now avoided their eyes, as if the silence itself carried a threat. The galaxy had never heard humans say the word enough. But the time had come. A council meeting was called, one of the largest in years. Dozens of empires sent their representatives, expecting Earth to arrive with more speeches of peace. The great chamber was filled with voices, the air thick with debate. When the humans entered, the hall grew quiet. They did not come with banners or grand words. They came in simple armor, their faces unreadable. When the Speaker of the Council asked for Earth's answer to the burning of their colony, a single human stood. He did not raise his voice. He did not speak of revenge. He only said one word: enough. The silence that followed was heavier than any roar of war drums. No one moved. No one dared to laugh. It was in that single word that the galaxy understood something had changed. For centuries, humans had been known as healers, as builders, as peacemakers. Now their kindness had been taken for granted one time too many. The fire that lay hidden beneath patience was finally uncovered. In hidden command rooms, human admirals began to map their paths. They marked the stars of those who had betrayed them. They marked the strongholds of those who had mocked their kindness. Every dot on the map became a reminder, every line a promise. Across Earth, factories lit up the night sky. The old war songs were not sung, but the sound of hammers and engines filled the air. Families who had lost loved ones spoke no words, but their grief sharpened into resolve. Soldiers walked with quiet determination, knowing what was coming. The galaxy had pushed too far. The humans would not speak again until their answer was written across the stars. And so, the silent breaking point became the beginning of something no empire was ready to face. The galaxy had expected mercy forever, but mercy was gone. What replaced it was something far colder, far sharper. It was not rage. It was not madness. It was focus. The kindest species in the galaxy had finally reached their limit, and now, the galaxy would learn what happened when humanity stopped forgiving. The galaxy's uneasy whisper. The word moved faster than light. From one trading ship to another, from one station to the next, it spread like a cold wind. Humans had spoken that single word, and the meaning of it shook every empire. They had said, "Enough." No one laughed anymore. On the edge of alien markets, merchants spoke in whispers. They remembered how humans once smiled, how they always paid fair, how they gave before they took. Now those same merchants spoke of human fleets rising like storms in the dark. The credits they earned from cheating humans no longer brought joy, because they feared the day the human ships would come to collect what was owed. In smoky taverns on frontier worlds, smugglers traded new stories. They claimed they had seen human war convoys moving through empty sectors, weapons glowing, engines burning brighter than stars. They swore that entire pirate bands had vanished after crossing human patrols, never to be heard from again. Whether the tales were true or not, fear made them spread faster than fire. Governments began to stir uneasily. Old enemies of Earth, once bold and proud, suddenly went silent. Empires that had mocked humans now gathered their fleets close to home. The laughter that once echoed in council halls had died, replaced by heavy silence. And yet no declaration of war came. That was what unsettled the galaxy most. If humans had screamed, if they had shouted for blood, if they had sworn revenge, then perhaps the other races could have prepared. But humans gave no speeches. They made no threats. They only moved their fleets one by one into the shadows of space. It was silence that frightened them most. On the ice world of Toraxis, a council of lords met in secret. They argued, their voices shaking over what should be done. One said, "They are bluffing. They cannot fight us all." Another shouted, "Fool, you did not see what they did to the Varnic colony. One ship against 20, and yet the humans walked away without a scar." Their arguments grew desperate, but no decision came. Fear ruled the room more than reason. On the desert world of Yaresk, priests gathered in their temples. They had always spoken of humans as bringers of light, but now their voices trembled. "If their kindness was divine," one priest said, "then what will their wrath be?" Across the galaxy, temples that once welcomed humans with open arms now prayed they would not be noticed. Even in the great empires, those with fleets numbering in the thousands, unease settled like a shadow. Admirals studied reports late into the night, staring at grainy images of human warships. They whispered to themselves, "How long have they been hiding such power?" The galaxy had always believed human ships were weaker, smaller, less advanced. Now they realized the truth. The humans had never been weak. They had simply chosen not to fight. That choice was gone. Alien spies sent into human space returned with strange stories. They spoke of shipyards blazing day and night, building vessels faster than any calculation should allow. They spoke of engineers working without rest as if driven by something far greater than fear. They spoke of soldiers training with a silence that chilled the heart. Their faces calm, their eyes cold. One spy, barely alive after escaping, gave a single message to his masters. They are not preparing for war. They are preparing for judgment. The galaxy began to divide. Some empires wanted to beg for peace. They argued that humans might still forgive if apologies were made quickly. Others wanted to strike first, to destroy Earth before its fleets could grow stronger. But both sides hesitated for one reason. No one knew what the humans would do next. The silence held them prisoner. On the council world of Varix, where dozens of alien ambassadors gathered, the air was thick with tension. Every day new reports came. A human fleet seen near a border system, a convoy of supplies moving in secret, a weapon test that shook the ground of a barren moon. The aliens argued endlessly. Some said they should unite against humans. Others said they should surrender before war began. But through it all, humans said nothing. And so the galaxy waited. Every star seemed colder. Every silence felt heavier. The smallest rumor of human movement was enough to make governments tremble. The universe had been built on the belief that humans were endlessly kind, endlessly patient. Now that belief was gone, and with it all certainty. For the first time, even the strongest empires felt small. The whisper of human wrath was everywhere, carried in every marketplace, spoken in every dark corner, repeated in every war room. No one knew when the storm would break, but all knew it was coming. The patience of humans had ended, and the galaxy was not ready. The first shockwave, the galaxy held its breath, waiting for the silence of humans to break. Days turned into weeks. Rumors circled like vultures, each more terrifying than the last. Some said Earth had built weapons that could swallow stars. Others claimed their soldiers had been trained to fight without fear, without rest, without mercy. None of it could be confirmed. The only truth was that humans had stopped speaking, and silence was heavier than threats. Then the first shock came. It began at the edges of the Koroan Dominion, a powerful empire known for its cruelty. They had mocked humans for centuries, calling them weak, soft, unworthy of respect. They had even boasted that it was their raiders who destroyed the human colony, though no proof was ever shown. To them, humanity was only a name for laughter. A single human ship entered their territory. It was not large compared to Koroan warships. It was not surrounded by escorts. It came alone, sliding through the black void with quiet grace. At first, the Koroan admirals laughed. They sent 20 ships to meet it, sure it would be crushed like an insect under a boot. But when the fleets met, the laughter ended. The human ship moved with speed that no calculation could predict. Its weapons fired with precision that seemed impossible. Beams of light cut through Koroan shields as if they were made of glass. Missiles struck with silent fury, finding weak points the Koroans did not even know existed. In minutes, half the fleet was gone. In less than an hour, all 20 ships were nothing but drifting wrecks. The human vessel did not take prisoners. It did not send warnings. It simply left the battlefield, disappearing back into the void as calmly as it had arrived. News of the destruction spread like fire. Entire systems whispered the story. One human ship had destroyed 20. Fear turned into panic. If one ship could do that, what could an entire fleet accomplish? In Koroan space, chaos reigned. Citizens demanded protection. Soldiers muttered in dark halls that the humans were unstoppable. The Dominion's leaders tried to control the panic, but every attempt failed. They had called humans weak for too long, and now their own words came back to choke them. Across the galaxy, other empires watched with dread. The message was clear. Humans were no longer forgiving. They were no longer patient. They had shown their teeth, and the first bite had torn a mighty empire's pride to pieces. But even worse than the battle itself was the silence that followed. The humans did not celebrate their victory. They did not send messages of triumph. No demands were made, no speeches given. They acted as if the destruction of 20 ships meant nothing at all. It was this cold indifference that made the galaxy tremble. In shadowed war rooms, alien admirals whispered to one another. If this is what they can do with one ship, they said, what are they hiding? On trading routes, captains changed their maps to avoid human space entirely. Some merchants abandoned their cargo rather than risk being caught in the path of human warships. Fear was not only in governments now, it was in the blood of ordinary people, in every market and port. The humans had struck only once, but that single blow was enough to shatter the galaxy's certainty. The Koroan Dominion demanded allies. They called for other empires to unite against Earth before it was too late. But old rivalries and mistrust poisoned their efforts. Some rulers secretly rejoiced at their suffering, whispering, let the humans break them first. Others, too afraid to choose, did nothing at all. And so, the galaxy remained divided while human silence stretched longer. A second strike soon followed. This time it was not a warship that acted, but a small human squad on a remote moon. The Koroans had stationed hundreds of soldiers there, confident in their strength. In one night, the human squad infiltrated the base and erased it from existence. The moon's surface was left scarred, blackened, empty of life. The speed, the precision, the lack of mercy. It was more than war. It was a message. Every empire understood it. The humans were not looking for conquest. They were not seeking slaves or resources. They were not even asking for territory. They were striking those who had crossed the line, those who had mistaken kindness for weakness. The galaxy had seen empires fall before. But those were battles of greed, of ambition, of power. This was different. This was vengeance wrapped in silence. Whispers became fear. Fear became panic. Panic became the sound of weapons being armed across every corner of the galaxy. But no matter how many fleets were raised, no matter how many weapons were pointed at the stars, one thought remained in every heart. Nothing could stop what had already begun. The humans had said enough, and the first shockwave was only the beginning. Fear spreads through. Stars' fear is a quiet thing at first. It begins as whispers in markets, as cautious looks across council chambers. But fear does not stay small. It grows, it spreads, and soon it consumes whole worlds. That was what happened when the first human strikes reached the ears of the galaxy. Every planet, every empire, every outpost heard the same story. Humans had unleashed their wrath. One ship had broken fleets, one squad had erased a garrison, and through it all humans had spoken no words of triumph. They did not roar their victories. They did not demand surrender. They simply struck and moved on, leaving silence behind them. That silence became the loudest sound in the galaxy. In the glittering halls of the Yarian Empire, the nobles gathered, their robes heavy with jewels, but their faces pale. For centuries they had mocked humans in public speeches, calling them the servants of peace, sneering at their mercy. Now they sat in silence, each one wondering if their names were written on some secret human list. The Empire's wealth meant nothing if one human fleet decided to erase their cities. On the volcanic world of Dresnar, the warlords who once lived for conquest began turning inward. They pulled their fleets from foreign campaigns and stationed them close to their homeworlds. They claimed it was strategy, but everyone knew the truth. They were afraid. Afraid that humans might appear above their skies, silent and unstoppable. Even the great trade guilds, those who had always chased profit above all else, began to hesitate. Human markets went dark, their ports closed, their convoys no longer open for business. For the first time in memory, the flow of goods slowed. Traders whispered that Earth had no need for trade anymore, because they had chosen war over wealth. This frightened the guilds more than battleships did, for if humans no longer sought balance through trade, then nothing could soften their wrath. On backwater colonies, the fear took another shape. Families sat in their homes staring at the night sky, wondering if human warships would pass overhead. Some prayed they would not be noticed. Others prayed that when the fleets came, they would come quickly, so suffering would be short. Entire villages went quiet, as if sound itself might draw the attention of Earth. The silence of humans became a shadow over every star. Meanwhile, within the alien councils, chaos reigned. The great chamber of Varix filled with arguments that stretched for days. Some leaders shouted for unity, begging all empires to join together to resist Earth. Others screamed that it was too late, that resistance would only bring faster death. A few, shaking with fear, suggested surrendering completely, even offering their worlds to humans if it meant survival. But no agreement came. The empires were divided, their mistrust of one another deeper than their fear of Earth. Old rivalries poisoned every discussion. One empire said, "We will fight, but only if you give us your fleets first." Another said, "We will surrender, but only if you stand with us." Nothing was decided. The galaxy remained fractured while human silence grew heavier. The worst part was not knowing where humans would strike next. Some believed they would march straight for the largest empires, tearing down the strongest first. Others thought they would move quietly, one colony at a time, until the galaxy bled itself into panic. But the truth was darker than either guess. The humans had no need to explain their moves. The silence was their weapon, and with it they made the entire galaxy fight shadows. Alien spies continued to return with strange reports. One claimed he saw human children being trained in war games more advanced than military drills. Another swore he had seen a factory where machines built weapons with no human hands, working endlessly in silence. None of the reports could be fully believed, but that did not matter. The galaxy believed them anyway, because fear made lies feel like truth. And everywhere, soldiers whispered to each other in the dark. They sharpened their blades, cleaned their rifles, checked their armor again and again. But even in their preparations, they felt the weight of hopelessness. They had all grown up hearing that humans were soft, kind, forgiving. If such a people had now turned to war, what hope did anyone else have? On worlds far from Earth, murals once painted to celebrate peace with humans were covered in black paint. Statues of smiling human diplomats were torn down, not in hatred but in terror. The galaxy wanted to erase the memory of kindness because kindness had become a reminder of what was lost. And so the stars grew colder. The once loud voices of mockery, of arrogance, of dismissal were gone. In their place was only silence broken by whispers and whispers broken by fear. The galaxy had pushed humans too far. The patience of Earth had ended. And all across the stars, every species waited for the next strike. They prayed it would not fall on them, prayed that the silence would pass them by. But prayers do not stop storms. And the storm was already moving. The war that changed everything. The silence could not last forever. Whispers had filled the stars, Fear had spread through every empire, but silence is only the shadow before the storm. When the storm finally came, it was not a slow rain. It was thunder, fire, and steel. It was war. It began at the borders of 3 empires at once. Human fleets appeared without warning, their ships sliding out of dark space like blades from a sheath. There was no message, no warning, no demand. The humans did not ask for surrender. They simply opened fire. The first empire to fall was the Koroan Dominion. Their fleet, still shaken from their earlier defeat, rushed to defend their core systems. But human ships cut through them with speed and precision that seemed unreal. Entire defense lines collapsed in hours. Worlds that had once laughed at Earth now burned under fire they could not resist. Cities crumbled, fortresses shattered, and when the smoke cleared, silence remained. The humans did not occupy the planets. They did not enslave the survivors. They only left behind ruins, as if to remind the galaxy of the price of betrayal. At the same time, in the far reaches of the Yarian Empire, human squadrons struck deep into their trade routes. Merchant convoys vanished without a trace. Entire fleets lost in the black. When the Yarian nobles called for negotiations, begging to meet, humans gave no answer. Their silence was heavier than any threat. Soon, Yarian wealth turned useless because no one dared to trade with them. Their empire, built on arrogance and jewels, collapsed under the weight of fear and hunger. On the volcanic world of Dresnar, the warlords prepared for a final stand. They gathered hundreds of ships, proud and defiant. They shouted their war songs into the void, vowing to crush Earth. But when the human fleets came, they did not roar back. They moved like shadows, their weapons flashing with cold precision. In one night, the Dresnar fleets were gone, scattered like dust in a storm. The warlords who once called themselves conquerors became ashes on their own burning world. Across the galaxy, systems lit up with fire. Every strike, every battle, every destroyed fleet carried the same message. Humans had reached their limit, and the galaxy would pay the price. The most terrifying truth was not the battles themselves, but the way the humans fought. They did not waste time. They did not fight for glory. Their fleets moved with a cold efficiency, as if every strike was already decided before the first shot was fired. Where other species fought with rage, humans fought with focus. Where others shouted victory, humans left silence. The galaxy had never seen war like this. In council chambers across the stars, panic turned to despair. Leaders who once mocked Earth now begged their people to hide, to surrender, to do anything to survive. Some sent envoys to Earth, offering tribute, swearing loyalty, promising peace. None of them returned. The humans did not want promises anymore. They wanted the galaxy to remember, and the galaxy did remember. On quiet worlds, families watched the skies, praying the fleets would pass them by. On distant stations, soldiers sat at their posts with shaking hands, knowing their weapons would not save them. On once proud capitals, statues of their rulers were torn down not by rebels but by fear itself. No one cared for politics anymore. They cared only for survival. As the war spread, some empires tried to unite. They gathered their fleets, thousands of ships, and prepared for one final battle. They told themselves that together they were stronger than Earth. But when the fleets clashed, the truth was revealed. The United Armada lasted only a day. Human ships moved like storms, breaking their lines, cutting them apart. In the end, the alliance was nothing but debris drifting in the black. The war had changed everything. No longer was humanity seen as the galaxy's gentle hand. They were no longer builders, healers, or forgiving neighbors. They were a force that could not be controlled, a storm that no empire could endure. And yet, when the great battles ended, when the flames settled and the stars grew quiet again, the humans did not claim thrones. They did not build empires from the ruins. They returned to their worlds, their fleets withdrawing into the silence they had carried from the beginning. The galaxy watched with awe and terror. For the first time, they understood that human kindness had never been weakness. It had been restraint. Mercy was not given because humans lacked strength. Mercy was given because they chose to give it. But when that mercy was thrown away, when the word enough was spoken, there was no power in the stars that could stand against them. The war ended not with treaties, not with surrender, but with silence. Human fleets returned to their space, leaving the galaxy broken and trembling. The lesson was carved into the memory of every world, every species, every empire. Never mistake human kindness for weakness, for when humans stop forgiving, the galaxy itself shakes, and the galaxy was not ready.